those of you who came out to the premiere at Outfest of my feature. Thank you. Everybody has a busy life. If you can't see it, hopefully you'll see it at another juncture before it comes out. It's coming out. We have a distributor, so it's coming out in the fall. But I hope you all get to see it on the screen because it's really exciting to see something on a 40-foot screen. And I'm so glad that people were moved. And yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about not the movie per se, but the experience of doing something like that. And I'm wearing my Outfest shirt. It's so gay. I love it. Okay, so yeah, I just want to talk about remembering like how interesting it is to you two. How interesting it is to create, not only to just create, but then to share your stuff with the world. And when I was in the movie, sitting next to my boyfriend. Literally, I think he lost all sensation in his arm because I was squeezing him so tight. Now, I'd like to blame part of that on Mercury in retrograde. It's true. Because literally the day before, there was a big gala at Outfest where they were meeting the filmmakers, and I ran into the distributor, and I was like, is everything ready for the screening? And he's like, yes. He's like, but we had a little snafu, and I was like, what happened? And basically, so the movie is partly in Spanish and partly in French. It's 3 interconnected stories. And the sales agents are in Paris, and so they were screening it. It's been screening in Europe and stuff like that. And so when it's showing in Paris, they don't need French subtitles. So they sent the finished file that Outfest needed without subtitles for the French stuff. So it's like, that's going to take Art House to a whole new level. You're going to be watching a movie, not know what the hell's happening. So he's telling me this on the red carpet, literally the day before we're screening. So I was like, this is Mercury in retrograde shit. So I was doubly scared because in the first 20 minutes of the movie, the French stuff kicks in 25 minutes. So I was like grabbing my boyfriend, wondering like, well, what happens if the subtitles just mysteriously disappear again? But it all worked out. And then beyond that, I realized like, it's so uncomfortable just sharing with the world your art. And if you don't know, I wrote it and directed it and produced it and acted in it. What? And it's so weird because all I am able to do, like all artists do, if you care about your art, is look at, and you have to be careful because you can't be hypercritical. And I don't think I was, but I was just sometimes cringing at some of the things that I've seen so many times that maybe nobody else would even notice. And that's what you do, and everybody does that who cares. It's always a better, I think, investment in caring a little too much than not caring at all. I always say, like, I wish I could be like those people who post things that, like, I don't know, they're unconscious of, like, maybe the quality or if it really means anything, but maybe in their world it does. And I wish I could be just a little bit more brave and just putting stuff out there like that. And then I'm like, well, maybe not, because maybe they're not suggestible to what it really means to invest your heart and to put yourself on the line where people may like it or not. And that's the point to remember. Some people may like your stuff. Some people may not. It's not the point. The point is for you to share authentically your view of the world. To share your point of view about things. You don't have to be a writer or director to do it. You have a very strong point of view as a storyteller, as an actor. So when you go into an audition, or you're doing a play, or you're on a series, but even just thinking in the audition room, you have 3 minutes to be a channel for meeting the role the way you uniquely do you. And that also is sharing your art in a way that might be rejected. But we have to become more resolute in, my job is not to control how people respond. My job is to share with the world my version of how I see the world. And that's risky and that's provocative. And that's why we are all artists at some level. So kids, I think it's just really important. To me, I was saying last night, it's a little bit like rubbing sandpaper. Like being an artist is taking a low grade. They come in different grades, don't they? I'm not a woodworker. But you take sandpaper and it's constantly like, but it's not like a guillotine. It's not chopping off of your arm. It's just a bit of a burn. Because to have to create art and meet yourself in the art that matters is a bit of that. Somebody last night was doing a scene and somehow he really broke through and got to a level in his work he'd never done before, and his hands were shaking. He's in a master class. His hands were shaking and he was like, that was so uncomfortable. I was like, that's it. That's why we're here. And then, of course, because he was uncomfortable, we weren't uncomfortable. We were so moved by somebody going to those places that affect us of the heart. I always come back to that Seymour Bernstein quote, which I really try to live my life by. He's a classical pianist. He's in his 90s now. And he worked with Ethan Hawke on this documentary about his belief in what it means to be an artist. And he talks about, basically the job of the artist in whatever form, or actually life itself, is to elicit a response, an emotional response from all aspects of being. So what does that mean? That means you, in this state as you are, not just as an actor and not just in doing acting things, you in life, evoking an emotional response from all aspects of being. So that means sharing yourself, talking about things that matter to you, being brave enough to share things with people that might be uncomfortable or that you have shame about. It's giving people the permission to share themselves about things that they're scared of and realize that we're all on the same trial. Everybody's a little bit scared and uncomfortable about just their own human existence. So I just wanted to share that with you, and the last part that I think comes hand in hand, what I realized about that weekend, and maybe because to me, maybe as I've gotten older, time feels more and more precious, and maybe the current climate of what we're living in now is, I think it's important not to rob yourself of celebrating your victories. And my boyfriend reminded me of that. He's like, can you not just celebrate how awesome today was and how great it was? So I have a really hard time receiving in that regard. And I was like, okay, that's a great reminder of just for a moment, just breathing in all the love that I was receiving, that I still would have received even if the movie was not well received. That's the point. You know what I mean? You're not respected any less just because something doesn't work out or people don't get it. Okay? All right.